Why can't you be more like him? She asked, so I stopped trying to be anyone else. Now she's with a man who yells at her, and I'm with a woman who adores me for me. Hey viewers, before we move on to the video, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button if you want to see more stories like this. Thanks. The first time she said it, I laughed it off. We were at a friend's party, and Jake, Sarah's husband, was holding court by the grill, flipping burgers with one hand and gesturing wildly with the other about some massive deal he'd just closed. Chloe nudged me with her elbow, her eyes fixed on him. God, look at him. He just has this energy, you know? Sarah says he's up for another huge promotion. Liam, when are you going to get a promotion? She said it with a smile, a playful glint in her eye. I squeezed her shoulder and kissed her temple. I'm pretty happy where I'm at, babe. Good team, decent hours. Let's me be here with you. She hummed, a non-committal sound, and her eyes drifted back to Jake. I know. It's just, he's so driven. I should have heard the warning bell. But I loved her. I thought it was just a throwaway comment. It wasn't. The comparisons became a low, constant hum in the background of our relationship, the soundtrack to a life she was increasingly dissatisfied with. It was never a direct attack, always a sideways glance, a sigh of longing, a why can't we disguised as casual observation. We'd be watching a movie, and a character would drive a stupidly expensive car. That's the kind of car Jake drives. Must be nice to not have to worry about your transmission giving out. She'd pat my leg, a gesture that was supposed to be affectionate, but felt like pity. I'd spend a Saturday building her the floating shelves she'd wanted for the balcony, my hands smudged with dirt from repotting her plants afterward. She'd come home, glance at my work, and say, "Oh, Sarah's place is being professionally decorated." Jake told her money was no object. It's going to be in a magazine, I think. My acts of service, the things I thought showed love, were being measured against Jake's wallet and found wanting. I started feeling like I was in a race against a ghost, a specter of success I had no idea how to beat because the finish line kept moving. But our anniversary was coming up. For years, I was determined to make it perfect, to show her that our life, our version of success, was something to be cherished. I didn't book a trip to Bali. I didn't buy a diamond necklace. I planned us a night that was us. I booked our favorite table at Il Tramonto, the little family-owned Italian place where we'd had our first date. The walls were a warm terracotta, the candles dripped wax onto old Chianti bottles, and the owner, Giovanni, knew us by name. I ordered her favorite wine, the ridiculously overpriced Cabernet we discovered on a trip to Napa, a trip I'd saved 6 months for. I was nervous. I felt like I was trying to defuse a bomb with kindness. I saw her walk in, and my breath caught. She looked beautiful. She was wearing a new dress, something sleek and expensive looking. For a moment, hope flared. She'd made an effort. Maybe she felt it too, the importance of this night. She sat down, gave the restaurant a quick, appraising glance, and offered me a tight smile. "You look amazing," I said, pouring the wine. "Thanks. This place is cozy as ever." The word cozy landed with a thud. It sounded like small. We made still conversation through the appetizers. She scrolled through her phone more than she looked at me. Then her face lit up in a way it hadn't all night. It wasn't for me. "Oh my God," she said, turning the screen to show me. It was an Instagram post from Sarah. A glossy, filtered photo of a diamond necklace laid out on a velvet box. The caption, "Just because nights are the best nights." Gemstone couldn't ask for a better man. Hashtag Jake the Great, hashtag spoiled rotten. "Look at that," Chloe said, her voice dripping with a wistfulness that felt like a physical blow. "Sarah showed me that earlier. Jake just gave it to her. For no reason. Just because." I took a slow breath, trying to keep my voice light. "That's a lot of diamonds." "It's not about the diamonds, Liam," she said, her tone sharpening as she put the phone down. "It's the gesture. It's about wanting to give your partner the world. It's effort." The words hung in the air between us, suffocating. The effort I'd put into this night. Booking the table, securing the wine, writing the card that was currently burning a hole in my jacket pocket, evaporated into nothing. Our main courses arrived. She picked at her osso buco, pushing the rich meat around the plate. "Is it not good?" I asked, my own stomach churning. "It's fine," she said, not looking up. "It's just, I saw on Instagram that Jake took Sarah to that new Michelin star place downtown for their monthliversary or something. The one with the 6-month waiting list. He probably spent more on that one meal than you did on this entire night. The dam broke. The careful calm I'd been clinging to shattered. What is it you want from me, Chloe? The question came out quieter than I intended, laced with her exhaustion I didn't know I was carrying. She finally looked up at me, and her eyes weren't wistful anymore. They were cold, hard, resigned. I want what Sarah has, she said, her voice flat. I want a partner who doesn't just play it safe. Who doesn't think this? She gestured around the room with her fork, a gesture that dismissed our entire history. Is enough. Mark would have taken Sarah to Bali for an anniversary. He challenges her. Why can't you be more like him? The air left my lungs. It was the first time she'd said it so bluntly, so cruelly. The name. Mark. Not Jake, the idea. But Mark, the man. A real person she was measuring me against. Why are you with me? I asked, my voice a hollow whisper. If you want to be with someone like Mark. She put her fork down with a definitive clink and looked me dead in the eye. There was no playfulness left. No pretense. I don't know anymore, Liam. I really don't. You're just comfortable. And I think I'm done being comfortable. The words landed, one after the other, like stones on my chest. Comfortable. Average. Basic. They were the antonyms of everything she now valued. They were the antonyms of me. I looked at her, at the woman I'd loved for 4 years, and I didn't see her anymore. I saw a stranger sitting in my girlfriend's chair, wearing her face, and speaking a language of disdain I would never understand. The fight drained out of me. What was the point? You can't argue someone into valuing you. I didn't yell. I didn't beg. I just nodded slowly, the motion feeling foreign and mechanical. I reached into my pocket, pulled out my wallet, and laid down enough cash to cover the meal and a generous tip for Giovanni. I stood up. Where are you going? She asked, a flicker of confusion breaking through her coldness. She'd expected a fight. She'd prepared for an argument. My silence was a script she hadn't read. I looked down at her, at the beautiful, miserable stranger who thought Bali was better than connection and diamonds were better than devotion. I'm done too, I said, my voice eerily calm. Enjoy the rest of your night. And I turned and walked out of the restaurant, leaving her sitting there, surrounded by the ruins of an anniversary she never wanted, finally getting the silence she'd been asking for. The silence in the apartment when I got home was a physical presence. It was heavier than the one I'd left at the restaurant. It was the silence of a verdict delivered, a sentence passed. I stood in the doorway of my home and just breathed it in. The familiar scent of her perfume on the coat by the door, the stack of design magazines she left on the coffee table, the cozy throw blanket we'd bought together on a cold weekend. It all felt like a museum exhibit of a life that had just ended. I didn't cry. I didn't break anything. I just felt numb, hollowed out. Her words played on a loop in my head. You're just comfortable. I'm done being comfortable. Why can't you be more like him? I didn't sleep. I sat on the edge of the bed in the spare room, staring at the wall, watching the headlights of passing cars paint shifting patterns on the ceiling. The numbness began to recede around 4 a.m., replaced by a cold, clarifying certainty. She had shown me exactly who she was. It was time to believe her. She didn't come home that night. I wasn't surprised. I pictured her going to Sarah's, spinning a tale of our fight, of how I'd abandoned her at the restaurant, leaving out the part where she'd emotionally eviscerated me over the osso buco. She'd be the victim. I was always the steady, reliable one until she needed me to be the villain to justify her unhappiness. The next day, I called in sick to work. My voice was steady on the phone. The world kept turning. The sun rose. And I started packing. I wasn't dramatic about it. I didn't throw her things in garbage bags. I was methodical, clinical. I went into our shared closet and took only what was unequivocally mine. I left the sweaters she'd borrowed, the t-shirts I'd technically bought, but she'd claimed as her own. I took my toothbrush, my shaving kit. I boxed up my books, my laptop, the few pieces of art that were mine from before we'd met. I left the framed photos of us on the walls. They felt like pictures of other people. My phone buzzed once around noon. A text from her. Chloe, we need to talk. 3 words. No apology. No, I'm sorry for what I said. Just a demand. A summons. I didn't reply. The power in that simple act, in denying her the response she expected, was a tiny, glowing ember in the cold emptiness inside me. She came home in the late afternoon. I heard her key in the lock, her footsteps hesitant in the hallway. She found me in the living room, sealing a box of my records. She looked tired. Her makeup was slightly smudged, and she was still wearing the dress from the night before. She'd probably expected to find me a wreck, red-eyed and desperate for reconciliation. Instead, she found a man quietly, calmly, dismantling his life from hers. "What are you doing?" she asked, her voice a mix of confusion and accusation. "Packing," I said, not looking up from the tape. "Liam, stop it. We need to talk about last night." I finished sealing the box and finally looked at her. Her arms were crossed, her posture defensive. She was waiting for my apology, for me to beg for another chance. She was ready for a drama where she got to be the magnanimous forgiver. "There's nothing to talk about, Chloe," I said, my voice flat. "You were very clear." She flinched, just slightly. My calmness was throwing her off script. I was upset. "You just walked out. What was I supposed to think?" "You were supposed to think exactly what you said," I replied, picking up another box to carry to the door. "You were supposed to think that I'm comfortable, average, and that you're done with me." "I heard you." She followed me into the hallway. "So that's it. After 4 years, you're just going to run away because of one fight." I stopped and turned to face her. The ember inside me glowed a little hotter. It wasn't one fight. It was the last one. It was the one where you finally said the quiet part out loud. I took a step closer, and for the first time, I saw a flicker of uncertainty in her eyes. "You don't want me. You want some idea of a man that you've built in your head. You want a mark." Her name for him hung in the air. Her name for him hung in the air. She didn't deny it. Her chin lifted, a gesture of defiance that was pure fragility. Is that so wrong? To want more? To want a partner who pushes for more? Who is more? I look at what Sarah has and I want that. I deserve that. There it was. The core of it. Not regret, but entitlement. Not a plea, but a justification. "So you're leaving me for an idea of a man you see on Instagram?" I asked, the absurdity of it all finally dawning on me. "Don't be pathetic," she snapped, her mask of wounded pride slipping to reveal the contempt beneath. "I'm leaving you for a chance at a better life. A real life. You'll never be able to give me that. You're just safe. And I'm done playing it safe." The words should have hurt. An hour ago, they would have. But now, they just were. They were facts about her, not judgments about me. She was a tourist in our relationship, and she'd finally decided the scenery wasn't glamorous enough. I looked at this woman I had loved, truly and completely, and I felt nothing but a vast, echoing silence. The love was gone. The pain was receding. All that was left was the certainty of my next move. I nodded slowly. "Okay." Her eyes widened. "Okay. What does that mean, okay?" "It means okay," I said, my voice quiet but final. "You're done. So am I." I turned my back on her, walked to the door, and picked up the 2 boxes I'd packed. My duffel bag was already by the door. It held everything I needed to start over. "Where are you going?" she demanded, her voice rising in pitch. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. I was supposed to fight for her. I was supposed to promise to be better, to be more like him. I opened the door and stepped out into the hallway. I looked back at her one last time, standing in the doorway of the apartment we'd shared, surrounded by the life she claimed to hate, but was clearly terrified to lose control of. "Goodbye, Chloe." And I walked away. I didn't slam the door. I let it swing shut quietly behind me, the soft click of the latch echoing in the hall like a period at the end of a very long, very painful sentence. I got in my car, my transmission-prone, average, comfortable car, and drove away. I didn't look back at the building in the rearview mirror. I was already gone. The first week was a blur of numb mechanics. I crashed on my friend Dave's couch. I found a cheap, short-term lease apartment. I moved my boxes into empty rooms that echoed with silence, not memories. The pain was a quiet, constant ache, like a bone-deep bruise. But the strangest thing was the clarity. Without the daily background noise of her dissatisfaction, my own thoughts became deafeningly clear. I hadn't been holding her back. She'd been holding me down, anchoring me in a sea of my own perceived inadequacy. I didn't cry. I got angry, but it was a cold, useful anger. I channeled it. I joined a gym and spent hours there, not to become some sculpted god for her, but to feel the solid proof of my own strength. My body was mine again. My time was mine. My peace was mine. I muted her on my phone. I didn't block her, a decision that felt like power, not weakness. I wanted to see if the silence would bother her. It was a test she was destined to fail. Weeks bled into a month. I focused on work, not for a promotion to impress her, but because I found I actually liked my job when it wasn't being used as a weapon against me. I reconnected with friends I'd gently sidelined because they weren't couple friends. A text came through from a mutual friend, Maya. "Maya, hey, heard about you and Chloe. Tough break. You okay? I was about to give a standard, I'm fine reply when a second text followed. Maya, for what it's worth, she's already seeing some new finance guy. Total tool. Lots of flash, not much substance. Sounds familiar, right? The ember of cold satisfaction glowed. The replacement had been acquired. The cycle was beginning again. For her, nothing had changed. For me, everything had. The reports trickled in, painting a picture I'd seen coming from a mile away. Maya became an unwilling source of intel. The new guy, Derek, was indeed a Jake 2.0. Loud, wore expensive watches, talked constantly about his portfolios. He'd swept Chloe off her feet with fancy dinners and hollow promises. But the facade cracked quickly. Maya witnessed it firsthand at a group happy hour. Text from Maya. Okay, you didn't hear this from me, but we were at the Oak Room last night. Derek was there. He was awful. According to her, he'd spent the evening holding court, but his jokes were cutting, his boasts were condescending. He'd openly criticized Chloe's choice of drink, calling it amateur. When she tried to join the conversation, he talked over her. Maya. Then he made some comment about her outfit. Said the color washed her out. I swear, Liam, her face just fell. She looked so small. It was brutal to watch. He's not a provider, he's a critic. The final act of karma was delivered via text a few weeks later. It was a masterpiece of irony. Maya, so? Update. Derek dumped Chloe. Apparently, he told her she was high maintenance and not worth the effort. I read the message 3 times. High maintenance. Not worth the effort. She had traded the man who found her worth the effort for a man who found her not worth it. She had left comfort for cruelty. She had begged for a challenge and gotten one. The challenge of being constantly diminished. The life of dazzling excitement she'd chosen had lasted less than 2 months. The grass wasn't greener. It was astroturf, laid over a foundation of absolute shit. And now she was standing in the middle of it, alone. The first text came at 1:17 a.m., a classic drunk dial in digital form. Chloe, I think I made a huge mistake. Can we talk? I read it. Felt nothing. Deleted it. The silence was my reply. A week later, my phone buzzed with a voicemail. Her voice was thick with tears, a performance for an audience of one. Liam, please. He was awful. You were right about everything. I'm so sorry. I just need to hear your voice. Please call me back. I deleted it. She wasn't sorry for what she did. She was sorry her gamble had failed. Then came the flying monkey. Her friend Sarah, the original source of the comparison poison. Sarah, look, Liam, she's really messed up. You need to be the bigger man here and talk to her. She learned her lesson. I answered, my voice flat. Her lessons are no longer my concern, Sarah. Please don't call me again. I hung up before she could sputter a reply. The final attempt was an ambush. She showed up at my new building, her face puffy, but her eyes were sharp with anger, not grief. The tears had dried up, replaced by pure entitlement. You've been ignoring me, she accused, blocking my path to the door. I have, I said, not breaking stride. After everything, you're just going to be a cold bastard about it. I stopped and finally looked at her. You got what you wanted, Chloe. You traded up. I hope it was worth it. I swiped my key fob and walked inside, leaving her standing on the sidewalk, her desperation finally curdling into rage. The mutual friend's summer barbecue was in full swing. I was there with Sophia. We were laughing by the grill, her hand resting easily on my arm. We looked and felt like a team. I saw Chloe before she saw me. She was alone, nursing a drink in the shade, looking brittle. She watched us. I saw the calculation in her eyes, the bitter comparison she was making. Driven by jealousy, she marched over as Sophia went to get us drinks. So this is why you couldn't answer my texts? You moved on that fast, she hissed, her voice low and venomous. Hello, Chloe, I said, my tone neutral. Who is she? Another average girl who doesn't expect anything from you. I glanced over at Sophia, who was smiling as she chatted with a friend. A genuine, easy smile. She's someone who doesn't ask me to be like anyone else. Chloe's face contorted. You think you're so happy? This is just you settling because you couldn't handle a real woman. Sophia returned then, sensing the tension. She stood beside me, a calm, solid presence. She didn't say a word, just offered a polite, questioning look. I looked from Chloe's angry, miserable face to Sophia's kind, confident one. The contrast was the entire story. I turned back to Chloe, my voice calm and utterly final. I'm not settling. I'm finally seen. Excuse us. I put my arm around Sophia, and we walked away. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. The silence that followed us wasn't empty. It was full of the life I'd built, a life where her approval meant absolutely nothing. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. What do you think about this story? Share it in the comments.